What's up, everybody? It is your boy Brandon Leake here, season 15 winner of America's Got Talent, native Stocktonian, spoken word poet, and you are here for episode 2 of my podcast entitled Vulnerability. I pray that episode 1 was a blessing to you, and that for all my people who are futurists or consistent reflectors of the past, that you found some freedom there, and that since the last podcast, you've taken the time to try to grow, change, and develop. I want to make this note now. If you hear any background noise, it has absolutely nothing to do with us who are running the podcast. The phenomenal sound and visual team did everything that they possibly could. We are right next to LaGuardia Airport here in New York. So while you continue to see this backsplash, you're going to likely hear some airplanes. Just a part of the podcast. Embrace it. But today's episode, I wanted to talk about why is love so easy to give, but hard to receive and accept. And this isn't for everybody, but this is for some people. And this was me for a very long season of my life. Multiple seasons, I would say. I should have most certainly moved on after season 1. But what I call this is the toxicity of giving. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of people in this world who found value in themselves solely based on what they can provide to other people and how they can make other people feel. And they then derived an identity based on, hey, if I can make other people feel this way, maybe that then is indicative of me being either a good person or a valuable person. And I want to warn you now, that is going to lead you to a cup run dry very quickly. Because those very same people will be the ones who will refuse to allow you to love on them well. You ever have that friend who you'll always go out to eat and they're always the one who tries to pay for the bill? And then it's like, hey, yo, I got this one. And then they refuse to let you do it. And it's like, you don't understand that this friendship need be reciprocal. I want to have value added into this relationship too. And my value added needs to be, it won't always be equal, but you have to create space for me to do that. Or the friend who constantly checks in on you, but then when you check in on them, the only thing that they'll say is, oh yeah, I'm good. I got a little something, but don't really worry about it, dog. I'll be straight. If you're the person who does those things, listen to me. You are robbing not only yourself of genuine relationship and friendship and the ability to be loved on and cared for, but you are also actively robbing the people who genuinely care and love for you, who genuinely care and have love for you, of an opportunity to be able to put that love into practice. And that same emotion, that same joy that you feel from being able to give love to people, you are now robbing them of the chance to be able to do that very same thing in reciprocation to you. And that's not fair. We need both be givers and receivers. We get in the church, we have this illustration of a cup, right? And now God is the master cup and it's constantly overflowing from that relationship. And then from that overflow, it constantly goes into our cups and we get filled. And then when our cups are filled, we get the chance to pour into other cups. But imagine yourself as a cup who has been long since run dry. And the moment that you finally get a couple of drops of water, it's constantly going out. But then when somebody else shows up with their cup that's completely full, ready to pour into you, you now say, no. I want you to stay full. I don't want you to be empty. When you yourself have run dry and grown empty. And people will try to do this in the name of, oh, I just really love this person. Like they're my friend and I want to see them do well, even if it costs me something. When nobody asked you for that. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. This has been me. This has been me in so many seasons of my life. I remember my first year of marriage. I was trying to do so many things for my wife. I was like, hey, let me go do this for her. Like, I don't even need to ask her. Like, I'll just go do it. I'll just go do it. And then what inevitably ends up happening is you grow resentful. Because you're like, hey, like I've been pouring out. I've been doing this. How come things aren't easier? How come things aren't going the way I want them? And then inevitably you get to a point where you're like, hey, like how come I'm not getting the love back that I was pouring out? And guess what? It wasn't that other person's fault. It was your fault because you never allowed the space for them to be able to actually provide it. And so like, I remember my wife really challenging me and saying, Brandon, I don't need all of this stuff that you're trying to do for me. All of these things, all of these acts, all of these gifts, all of this stuff, it's all vain. It's all excess. It's just to help try to prop up your own ego. It's not genuinely serving me. It's only serving you. Because if you really wanted to serve me, then you would sit back, relax, and give me a place at the table to be able to actually sit. Because we're equal partners in this. And I remember being challenged with that and feeling so antithetical. Like that was so antithetical to everything I'd ever thought, everything I'd ever believed about, what love should be and how we should give it, how we should receive it. And I was given this verse. It is 1 Corinthians 13 verses 4-8. And love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away, but love shall not. And I remember when they shared this verse with me, I was like, what does that got to do with anything? And they were like, Brandon, you're possessing an arrogant love because you believe that your love is sufficient enough to do all the things that it is incapable of. Your love is only a portion of what this person needs, because purpose is not just derived by what we receive, but by what we also give. Right? And you are only a cup doing half the job. And you are now forcing other cups to only do half the job. And so, for my people here who may struggle to receive love, may struggle to get out of their own way to allow people to bestow love upon them. And love comes in a myriad of ways. Love comes in accountability. Because most of the time when people hear the term love, they think affection. And that's not what I'm talking about. Like, it can be, but that's not specifically what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the whole gambit of what biblical love actually talks about. For the people who struggle receiving that, here's what I would task you to do. Ask your friends, what are the blind spots I have that you feel I should finally open my eyes to in terms of being able to create space for you to love me well? And then when you hear those things, don't instantly dismiss them, because that's what our nature is. Our nature is to kind of try to push them down and say, no, I don't need that. I don't need that. And then guess what? It may be the very remedy you're in need of. After you get those recommendations from other people, what I would challenge you to do then is to take time and really reflect, meditate, and pray on what those answers were. Are they actually true? And don't just, as I said, you can't just dismiss them off the bat. You have to give this time. And then provide them space to go act on the ways that they are desiring to love you. Have a talk about it, have communication about it. And in the same regard, flip the conversation and say, hey, what are some ways that I've been trying to love you well that you feel like I haven't done well? Because guess what? Oftentimes when we are just consistently trying to pour out love to people, we're not even necessarily doing it the proper way, because they've grown, they've changed, and they need love that's now shifted from the way that we once gave. Classic example is me and my wife. I remember my wife really enjoyed when I would, make this particular meal for her. And then come to find out 2 years later, she's like, oh yeah, I'm like so tired of eating that because you made it for me so many times. And I'm like, well, you never said anything. She's like, you also never asked. And so, yes, in the same way that this verse says, love is patient, love is kind. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with others. Be kind to others. Because this is a journey. This is a growth point of not just being able to just constantly give out, but to also sit back and say, hey, this might be my season where I really need to be able to learn how to receive. Do not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. The reason why we believe our love is sufficient for other people is because we believe ourselves to be very self-important. Don't hold yourself in that regard where your love need be the thing that everybody is in need of. But instead say, hey, let me just play my part in my role. I will discern, have wisdom, pray, and know what I'm supposed to do. And I will act in good faith for the things that I'm confused about. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing. It rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. People mistake this part of the verse. They oftentimes think, well, yeah, love can bear all things. In a previous verse, it talks about how God is love. And that's the concept that they're referring to. That God's love can bear all things. God's love can do all things, can heal all things, hopes all things. Our love ends up being very finite and not comprehensive enough to be able to be enough for everybody. Shoot, it's not even enough for ourselves. But it is still important that we play our role by not just being a cup that gives out, but by being a cup that also opens its lid to be able to be poured into. Because your life is worthy of being just as full as the lives you try to pour into. So, comment down below. Tell me, what ways are you going to open yourself up to be loved? Because you deserve to be loved. You really do. And to all my narcissists out there who are like, yeah, dang well right, I deserve to be loved. Everybody needs to love me. I'm not talking to you. Sorry. But for everyone else, love y'all. Holla at y'all later.